Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Tom Kelly, and this is Clean Cut Audio, a channel dedicated to educating and inspiring higher standards of audio in podcasting. Every week, I put out videos and podcasts teaching you how to produce a better sounding podcast and get it done more efficiently. One of the most common questions I get is still on compression. I've done a lot of videos on compression, but it's something that took me years and years and years and thousands of hours of playing with to really understand at the point that I understand it now. And there's probably so much on the horizon to learn. But in podcasting, thankfully, most things are very simple. However, there's still some interesting concepts to work around, especially when you're not exactly hearing what you want to hear. So today I'm introducing a tool by Apogee Digital called ModComp, and it is an incredible compression visualizer that I think will really help teach you compression and what all these parameters do. So I'm going to show you how this plugin works today, and we're going to go over a couple of things. I'm really excited about it, so let's do it. The first thing I really need to get out of the way is if you are on a PC, I'm sorry, Apogee, I don't think any of their devices work on PC, and their plugins are Mac only. So if you're on PC, really sorry, see you next week. I feel bad, but this is just a really important tool. And I guess even if you're on a PC, stick around because there's some really interesting things that you might see on this visualizer that you've never seen in a lesson on compression before. So you know what, PC users, I love you. Stick around. There's still lots to learn. So the first thing that I want to say, Apogee makes absolutely incredible hardware and software. I record all my everything on an Apogee Ensemble, and I'm using some of their plugins, which are incredibly high quality plugins. They do some analog emulators, and again, this really nice compressor called ModComp. Their prices are pretty reasonable, and they have payment plans where you can rent to own their plugins. I didn't need to rent to own ModComp. It was $75 at the time, but I wanted to see how easy the process was, so I elected to pay, was it $5 over 15 months or something, in order to just kind of test out how easy their payment plans are. And they're great, which makes their plugins even more accessible to more people. There's no credit check or anything. They just charge you whatever amount every month. They tell you up front, and every month they just auto withdraw it from your account. You can pause it at any time and pick up at any time, and when all the payments are made, then you just own the plugin. So it's really, really great for those of us that don't always have as much money as we need at the time. This is not a sponsored video, just wanted to say that's a really cool thing that they do. So this video is going to be really annoying. We're going to be listening to the same 2-second sample over and over and over, but we're going to show it with this visualizer. Let's get into Pro Tools here. And this is what the compressor looks like. It has a couple different things here, and we can just quickly go over some of the settings. First of all, light mode and dark mode. Oh my gosh, this plugin is worth whatever they want. We have the same thing we see on most other compressors. We have threshold, ratio, knee, attack and release, and the makeup gain. There's two things that we don't often see, and that is auto makeup gain, and we have the dry and wet effects. So quickly, when we're compressing, we're knocking down the signal a bit, so we're going to lose some loudness. We can either manually make it up again with this makeup dial, or we can... There we go. Or we can press auto, and it's going to gain stage this so that whatever you are losing in the process of compression, it is automatically making that much up for you. Gain staging is very important because you can clip your audio at any time, not just in the master fader. And if you're not gain staging properly, there's potential for audio to peak and clip and distort halfway through your signal chain, and it's going to kind of cause you to chase your tail on what's going on, what's the sound that I'm hearing. So the auto makeup is an incredible feature. So I'm not going to fully explain compression because I have many other videos on that. But the cool thing is we can see, say this is our loudness line over time here, right? We can see what a threshold is doing. We can see where the threshold is on the dotted line. And then the ratio is going to show you how intensely a signal will be knocked down. So this is no compression 1-to-1. And if we were looking at like this right here on that cross, if we raise the ratio, we can now see the audio that was this loud with a 3.6-to-1 ratio in this threshold, the audio is now going to be this loud, which is about 6 decibels quieter than before. So that just kind of shows you how the ratio works, right? And we can see with the knee as well, it's going to gradually introduce more compression as it gets closer to that threshold line. And attack, we will see on this side of the visualizer once we start playing with some audio. Now, again, I warned you, we're going to be listening to this same 2-second sample over and over and over, and we're going to just kind of listen and see what the difference is in the signal here. So let's just let's play it a couple times and dial in a good threshold.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone.
All right, so what we're saying is this is too loud, and we can see the audio in two places. We can see it coming up right here, and we can see it, the timeline running down.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that.
All right, so your claim to me all the stuff is above the threshold.
Your claim to me on the.
And what we see in the lighter blue is before, and then the more highlighted blue is going to be after.
Your claim to me on the phone.
So we can see it's knocking down a little bit of signal here. And another cool thing we can see is the orange line
Your
up
claim
top
to me on the phone the other day was that.
Is showing you the gain reduction. So how much work this compressor is doing. Let's see what happens when we start to play with some of these settings.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. All
right, no compression because everything is below the threshold.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me.
A ton of compression because everything is above the threshold. So we can kind of use this visual information to just figure out what's too loud.
Your claim to me on the.
And we can also see that we might instinctively think that anything above the threshold is just chopped off at the threshold. It's not.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me.
More is chopped off as we increase the ratio, but we can see it's probably not doing as much as we think. The difference between 1-to-1 and 30-to-1.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me.
It starts to be obscured over time. There's not a huge difference. So that's why when people are like, never compress more than 4-to-1. Why? 4-to-1, the difference between 4-to-1 and 30-to-1 in this case doesn't make a difference. Why is that? Let's take a look at attack and release. This is something that really trips people up a lot, is the difference between attack and release. Why not have it be fastest attack all the time? And attack, just a quick refresher, is once the audio crosses the threshold, how long do we wait until the compressor engages? That is attack time. And release time is once the audio goes back down below the threshold, how long until the compressor disengages? So let's look at a really fast attack time.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me.
And do you hear how like crackly and crunchy and distorted that is? That is the sound of overcompression. When we have crazy fast attack, we tend to have some of those issues. I had someone ask me why not just do fastest attack all the time, because it's not very transparent. So let's back it off a little bit, and we're going to see a lot less compression is happening. I'm going to loop this a couple times and watch and listen to what's going on.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that.
So if you haven't noticed, the attack time actually seems to do a lot more sometimes than even the ratio does, which is what people mostly tend to focus on. If you can't hear the differences, it's really great to have this visualizer to just kind of be a visual aid for what's going on. And then we can start kind of hearing some of these changes as we were prompted with what we're seeing. Let me turn the auto gain off so we can greater hear the differences without the auto makeup.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that. Your claim to me on the phone.
So that's really overcompressed. You can hear that pumping and it sounds like it's getting squashed. So, okay. And if you can't hear that, you can see like we don't want 10 decibels of gain reduction. When I'm doing a podcast, I'm really looking at like 2 to 3 decibels of gain reduction. Now, I'm not a very dynamic speaker, so I don't need a ton, but my co-host is. We can see the difference between this very loud and it gets really quiet down here. This portion is Look how much quieter that is than the others. So we're trying to get that somewhere more in the middle, and then we're using this makeup gain to bring everything up together. Let's look at some of the effects of the knee here.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that
that's not always the way.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day.
So we see that when we increase the knee, it compresses more because we can see in the visual that compression with no knee doesn't start until the threshold, but with our knee up to 1, compression is starting all the way down here, which is really far below the threshold. So we want to be a little mellow with this so we're not compressing too much. And then let's look at the release time. This is a really important factor in compression. I think release time might be one of the most important factors because we only want to compress this signal here. If we leave the release time on too long, it's going to slowly start uncompressing throughout the duration of the rest of the audio, meaning it's going to compress the quieter audio, making it even quieter. So what we're looking for is a compressor that will hit this stuff and turn off quickly enough that it allows all of this to breathe without bringing it down. So let's dial in an attack time and a release time that really makes this audio sound great, and then we'll print it to a new track and we'll see, again, more visuals, how this is all affecting the audio. And just kind of take a look, soak in everything that's going on. Look at the gain reduction up at the top here. Look at the before and after. We have every change we make is showing us on this curve here what's happening. So let me dial it in, get used to this 2 seconds of audio, and we're going to listen to before and after results.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me.
So this is kind of overcompressed, but let's hear what happens when we have too long of a release time. We're going to see this orange line start making some pretty good sledding hills rather than these huge dips and valleys.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that
So what's happening is all of that is getting compressed when we don't actually want it to. So I'm going to quickly do before and after. Very short release, very, very long release.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day was that your claim to me on the phone the other day was that.
So we can see all of this stuff is not being affected, but too long of a release time is.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that.
So I tend to just get like almost as fast of an attack and almost as fast of a release as we can get. Ends up being a little more transparent, but again, we don't want to push it too hard.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that
All right, now let's print this to another track in order to see the difference here. Let's make this bus 3. And I'm going to make the input of this bus 3, and my outputs never tend to be right. I'll need to figure that out in the I/O settings, and I'm going to print this audio down here.
Your claim to me on the phone the other day was that.
All right, so we can see that the loudness of this audio is much more even than this, but we can also see it's louder across the entire spectrum. So let's take a look at that. Before and after right here, it is so much more even, and we were able to quickly and easily dial it in using ModComp by Apogee Digital. Again, they're not paying me to say these things. I paid for this plugin. I paid a ton of money for my interface. I have no connection with them, unfortunately, although I am working on it. But this is such an incredible compressor because especially if you're having trouble figuring out what parameters you should be using a tool that has a great visualizer is a really great way to kind of have some assistance in better hearing all these changes that are happening. So really consider ModComp by Apogee Ensemble. Right now it's on sale for $75, which is probably more than some people have spent on a compressor, but that is a great price, especially with the $5 a month rent-to-own plan that they have. ModComp by Apogee Digital. Thank you in advance for sponsoring this channel, Apogee. I'm working on it. I would love to work with you. I love their products. They have interfaces and converters for every price range from in the $100 to $200 up to $6,000 to $7,000, and they have Absolutely incredible analog to digital conversion, ADA conversion. Gets you a really, really clean signal, clean preamps. I love their products. If you've never heard of Apogee, definitely check them out. They can really help bring your podcasting to the next level, and ModComp can help bring your compression skills to the next level. Thank you all for being here. I hope you're wanting to learn more and more about compression, something that's very important in podcasting. Issues with loudness is the number one way to lose a listener, and compression is how you fix that. Pretty relatively easy very quickly. So make sure you know everything you can about compression. Check out some of my other videos. I have some paid courses on compression, 75-minute videos that go into all the parameters, deeper learning into what we just did today. But thank you all for being here. Please subscribe to the channel and make sure to ring that bell so you never miss a video. New videos coming out every week. New podcasts also coming out every week on Thursdays. And I hope to see you over there as well. cleancutaudio.com/podcast. But thank you all. I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate you all. I love you all. Share this video with a friend. Tell them how important compression is. And I'll see you next week. Love you all. Bye.